Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making Jalapeño Taco Cornbread Casserole. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this. There are some peppers involved in this because you can see those jalapenos laying there. There's some pepper jack cheese which also has peppers in it. And then there's just some seasoning and stuff that's going to go in to add to this, like we have taco seasoning, and then even in the rotel there is seasoning that's in with the tomatoes. And then we actually are using some chili beans in this. Other than that, you just have some vegetables and stuff. We're going to make a cornbread topping for this. And it's just going to be something really amazing because if you like ground beef and you like tacos, then this is really going to work for you because this has a lot of flavor going on in that direction. So we're going to take our pepper jack cheese, which we have about 3 ounces of, and we're going to cut it into small pieces. So basically slice it around to the side, then go ahead and flip it over and cut it in the other direction. Because basically what we want to do is just layer this over top of what we're making up in a minute to let it melt. Then we're going to cut up our jalapeno peppers. Now, I got to warn you on this. If you are touching these peppers, do not touch your face or your eyes. Make sure that once you're done, you wash your hands because we do not want this getting in your eyes or anything like that because it will burn you. So go ahead and get these cut up, and then we're going to set these to the side. And then we have about a medium onion, which we're going to take this and cut it into small pieces. Now, just slice across this onion however you want to do it because we're cutting it into small pieces. No matter how you get there, it's fine. But we want to make sure we break them up a bit because once you get them in the pan, you want them to cook evenly, and big hunks of onion don't cook evenly. So go ahead and slice up all of that. And then to the side of this, we have about a half a cup of red and green bell peppers that are already cut up. These came out of a bag of frozen. So, you know, if you just want to use green or just want to use red, it's your choice. You can use whichever you want. But I just used these out of the bag because it was a mix of them. So this is what our prep is right here. It's already done. We're good to go. So we're going to get ready to take all of this into a skillet pretty soon. So the next thing you're going to need is a cast iron skillet because this is going to end up in the oven, and you really need cast iron because you don't want to mess up a good skillet sticking it in there. So we're going to add about like 3 or so tablespoons of olive oil to this. Then we're going to bring in our cut up onions, and then we're going to add to it our bell peppers. And once they're in there, we want to get them really coated in the oil. And we're going to cook these on medium-high heat for at least 4 minutes or so to get them softened up and cooked through a bit before we do anything else. So get everything into the skillet, make sure your temperature is up, and get them coated in that oil so that way they'll cook. So keep moving them around until you get them really to the point where you think they're coated. And you're going to want to move these around periodically during the 4 minutes because you don't want them just sitting in one place and possibly searing on the bottom or getting kind of burnt. So just go ahead and mix them around. And then when we get to the 4-minute marker, we're going to bring in our ground beef because we want to actually get the ground beef in and let them cook with the peppers and the onions, because at that point, you know, you're adding flavor to the beef. So for the moment, push all your vegetables to one side of the pan, and we're going to drop in the ground beef on the other. And here's the thing, we want to cook this ground beef until it's really browned. We want to break it up, we want to crumble it up, we want to get it totally brown, and then we're going to, as it's cooking, mix the actual vegetables in with the ground beef so that way they can season it, give it flavor, let everything work here. And then as this is going, you know, you're going to cook this until it's completely brown, but we are going to add some seasoning to it. So go ahead and chop this up for a moment. And then we're going to come in on top of this with a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And as I said, you're going to be on a medium-high heat. So start working this, moving it around and mixing it together to get it to where this is actually browned. Now, the next thing you're going to need for this is a packet of taco seasoning mix. This is just the same thing as if you were making tacos at home. But what we're going to do is we're going to use it to give flavor to the beef that's going into this casserole, which is a really great thing. So once we get everything pretty much browned here, we're going to go ahead and add that in. But for the moment, keep mixing up what you got in the skillet for now and get it browned. Now, being you're working with a cast iron skillet, this really won't take that long to get there. And as you can see, mine is already browned at this point, and I'm getting ready to add in the seasoning packet. Now, you only need one of these seasoning packets. There's a lot of flavor in this one, and it's going to work for this whole skillet, so that's perfect. Because we are going to add in other things that do have flavor to them. But once you get the packet in, mix it through because we want it to mix with any kind of the juices or whatever that's in this skillet right now. and let it just spread throughout before we add anything else to it. Because one thing you need to do as you go through this is every time we add something new, mix it through so that way it gets all the way through the whole skillet and it's not like in one place or the other. We get kind of an even distribution. Now, the next thing you're going to need in this is a can of sweet corn, but we're going to drain the liquid from it. You don't want the liquid, you just want the corn itself. So, as this is getting to the point where the taco seasoning is completely mixed through, you should be about ready to drain that corn and get ready to go with it. Now, as you can see with this is really cooking at this point. So our corn is in, and we're going to mix that through as well. And then the next thing you're going to need is a can of mixed chili beans. Now, these ones have like, I think there's 5 different beans in this when you're doing it. But it's a mix of really good stuff, and it really works for what we're doing here with this casserole because it has a lot of flavor to it. So we're going to add the whole can in. There's no draining or anything to do because this is all pretty much compacted inside of there. So get that in and mix it through. And the next thing you're going to need after this is a can of Rotel. And that's basically going to be like your tomatoes that are seasoned with flavoring and stuff like that, and peppers and stuff like that's already in there. So once that's there, we're going to add that over top of what we already mixed up. And at this point, you need to preheat an oven to 400 degrees because we're going to cook this for 35 minutes in there. So make sure you get the oven hot before we get to the last steps of this. Now, once this is all mixed up and it's really had a moment to simmer and mix together and all these flavors work together, because trust me, there's a lot of flavor going on in the skillet right now, we're going to bring in that cheese that we cut up and put it across the top because we want it to melt before we do anything else to this. So kind of spread it evenly across the top of it. It's not going to like cover the whole thing. It's just going to add flavor across the top of this casserole. So keep working it until you have it evenly distributed. And one of the last things we have to do is mix up the cornbread topping. Now, this is where you get to choose what kind of topping you want to use, because we're basically going to use like a box mix. Your choice, whichever kind you want to use, because we all have our favorite kind we want. And it's just one of those things where we're going to take about a cup of the cornbread mix and just mix it up and have it ready to go for this. So follow their directions. Usually it says to add whatever is per one serving this stuff. Add 1 large egg to it, and then you're going to add milk, and that's the way you mix up their cornbread. So it's that easy. It's just like a regular cornbread mix, but we're going to pour it over top of this thing. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, that when we do this, this stuff will rise. It's going to get thicker. So if you see that there's like a thin coat of this going on top of it, it isn't so thin once it cooks up, because it'll actually cook to a point to where, you know, the whole layer over top of this thing is going to be almost like, you know, a ½ an inch thick or so of cornbread. So, you know, just because it looks like it's not a lot, it really is. So we're going to pour this over top of our skillet. And we're going to try and get this on evenly to a point to where it goes almost to the edge. I mean, if you can't make it all the way to the edge, that's fine, because I have a rather large skillet that I'm putting mine in. So it's one of these things where you just spread it out evenly until you can get it to a point where it's almost to the edge. So if you have a spatula, just work it around and just kind of smear it around there. Because like I said, this is going to cook up. And once it does, it'll spread out and it'll do what it needs to do. So as long as you have it kind of close to the edge, it'll do the job. And then once we get this all out like that, we're going to put our jalapenos that we cut up earlier on top of this. So you can do like whatever you want to, a design, do a circle. You know, I just went around the outside of mine, just making a circle. And then I took the extras and went toward the inside of it. So, you know, it's like if you were making a pizza and you were putting pepperoni on top, you know, one of those kind of deals. But just go ahead and work it around until you have all the top of it covered with your jalapenos. And then we're going to pop this in the oven, 400 degrees, for 35 minutes, and it'll come back looking something like this. And this has such an amazing taste that I think you're really going to like this a lot. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.